We'll begin the news with news as President Bola Tinubu assuring Nigerians that 2026 will be a more prosperous year for all. Tinubu stated this in his New Year address on Thursday, his New Year message to Nigerians, adding that his administration would sustain the momentum on its major reforms. The president said that the focus in 2026 would be on consolidating the gains and continuing to build a resilient, sustainable, inclusive, and growth-oriented economy. According to him, Nigeria closed 2025 on a strong note, as despite the policies to fight inflation, it recorded a robust GDP growth each quarter, with annualized growth expected to exceed 4% for the year. Tinubu explained that the nation maintained trade surpluses and achieved greater exchange rate stability, while inflation declined steadily and reached below 15%, in line with his administration's target. For in-depth analysis on this, Professor Semion Nnah joins us now. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. Professor Nnah is also a current affairs analyst as he joins us here this afternoon. First of all, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. A prosperous one indeed.
A prosperous one indeed. And it seems the same for Nigeria. I mean, the president says that 2026 will be more prosperous for Nigerians and that there would most likely be a substantive gain in terms of our GDP. From your perspective, how realistic is this assurance given the current economic conditions we've seen across the festive season?
Well, talk is cheap. It is only when it's being implemented that we'll begin to say it is uhuru. Nobody can just say it is uhuru yet, but the president's speech was up to speed with what everybody expected. However, it is not just rhetorics. We want to see in implementation. Some of us are have some, reservations from a benefit of hindsight. You know, when he came in, he said subsidy were removed, and we expected that this removal would have translated to, more funds for projects. However, we are still borrowing. So with that in mind, we will not just look at the speech and then now just give a pass mark. The speech itself is okay. I can tell you that for free. The people that crafted the speech, they did a good job. However, the question now is how are these things going to be implemented? Because already we have crisis brewing, and then the tax regime is a crisis that is going to brew in this year that started today. Because it's been proven now that the tax reform that was signed is not exactly what the National Assembly passed. Recall that the last time I was on this station, I was expressing shock at the sinful silence of the Senate. But the Senate has spoken now, and both chambers are in tandem with the fact that some of the things that were smuggled into the tax law were not what they passed. And those things are going to affect the opposition. Recall, too, why some of us are having some reservation is that this is a year of politicking. Everybody that has been in Nigeria knows that a year to the election is not a year that government will do any tangible thing. Whatever they will do is all the monies they will have will be geared towards campaign. So that's why some of us have some reservations.
Right. Let's talk about that GDP growth that I mentioned earlier, because this administration is pointing to the fact that they're saying that the GDP growth might extend or grow beyond 4% as a key achievement. They're mentioning this. And this is all preemptive. We're not sure yet, but they're already mentioning this as a key achievement. How much of this growth do you think is being felt by the ordinary Nigerian if 4% is preemptively one of an achievement for 2025 when it comes to economic reforms by this administration?
You said it earlier. You see, it is one thing to project a thing. Recall that project is something you propose for the coming year. It's not actual. So it's a proposal. But why some of us are having problem with such growth is that their fiscal policies are not in tandem with the monetary policies. You see, what I was taught in school is that your fiscal policy must be in tandem with your monetary policy. Now, their monetary policy, if you look at the interest rates, is at 27%, and they are saying inflation has reduced below 15%. You can't marry the two. You can't marry the two. You know, over 13% thereabouts. You know, so when you look at some of these projections, there are some holes you are going to be punching, because at the end of the day, these things don't tally. I don't blame the president, because it's a speech that was couched for him. What I'm saying is that NDS should give us real figures, because those things does not translate to reality, because the people are still suffering. The masses, the trodden masses are still suffering. And telling us that this thing has trickled down, that the inflation rate has gone down. Where has it gone down? Right. Yes, it has gone down a little bit, but who hiked it? It was this same administration that hiked inflation, and they are now telling us that they are bringing it down. They say exchange rate has stabilized. Who pushed the exchange rate to 1.8? Is it not this administration? What was the exchange rate before they came in? So these are the issues. Yeah, so you don't...
Hello? Right. Yeah, I'm with you, Professor, because you just mentioned two things here. The exchange rate stability as well as the inflation, which the president says that it has declined, although still double digit, but now below 15%. You've also talked about the exchange rate stability, and they've all mentioned this as surplus for the economy, as well as trade surpluses as well. And these are all gains to them, right? Besides just looking at, you know, whether or not this is reflecting in terms of real relief and the cost of living crisis that we saw last year and the year prior. I want also to talk about whether or not these are real gains, or, as they said, it's a long-term effect, and we ought to exercise patience and wait. Should Nigerians exercise patience and wait as we're going into 2026?
How long can we exercise patience? Now, if the populists are exercising patience and the government is exercising patience, it will be a different ballgame. But when the government is living large, and they're expecting the populace to exercise patience, I mean, it doesn't tally. That's where some of us are expressing some shocks. If you are saying that there will be belt tightening, it should be across board. The government should tighten their belts as well as the ordinary citizens. You don't ask the ordinary citizens to tighten their belts, and they are living large. See, I was reading the trade surpluses this morning. Anybody can look at that at today's Punch. Right. You can go there and look at it. When they are talking about trade surpluses, did they do anything extraordinary for those trade surpluses? No. It is just the oil, the crude oil, and the selling of refined crude. Listen, there's a lot of manipulation in this economy. There's a lot of deceit in this economy, because you are exporting refined crude and importing refined crude at the same time. Are you aware that Dangote is exporting refined crude and we are importing refined crude? And some of the excesses, the trade surplus we are getting today is from crude, from what I have read even this morning from Punch. So it's not because other sectors of the economy has been improved. It's just the same one single product economy. So that is not progress as far as I'm concerned. We need to get down to brass tacks and show that we are serious with what we are doing. Now, if that had come from agriculture, from entertainment, from other sectors of the economy, one can say, okay, you can roll out your drums. Now, he talked about borrowing, that we didn't have internal borrowing. No. The question I want to ask is, please, let's take this thing home. Is it natural that you have some money at home, 40-something billion, as your reserve, and you are borrowing over that amount? What economic sense does it make? It doesn't make economic sense, because the money you borrowed, you are going to pay interest on it. I understand some of the dynamics. I just want the layman to understand where I'm going. Right. That's why I'm saying that, because it doesn't make economic sense that you are borrowing so much and you are rolling out drums that you have savings. Why didn't you use that, your savings, to shock up the borrowings, instead of borrowing so much and coming to gaslight us that you are not doing a domestic borrowing? Borrowing is borrowing, whether it's domestic or it is foreign.
Professor Nnah, well, let's talk about the economic reforms, right? I mean, most of these economic reforms that we're seeing by this administration, they will continue in this year, 2026. But most importantly, we've also seen the tax reforms, which have now taken full effect starting today, January 1st of 2026. I have to ask you about the risks of all these reforms that are happening all at once or all at the same time. I mean, it feels like, the citizens, there's just so much one can take all at once, right? So what risk should the government be mindful of to avoid, further hardship for Nigerians, for the citizens? Now, we know that contributing from tax into GDP has always been low, and IMF and the other bodies have asked that, the tax contribution increases. But what do we foresee? What would be your call to the government in terms of hardship?
My call to the government is not to listen to World Bank and IMF, because the problem we're having today are the World Bank and the IMF conditionalities. That was what led to, the twin reform of removing subsidy and floating the dollar at the same time. See, I've always constantly argued, because I listened to the late Professor Luku, who was an economic advisor to late Abacha. He said something in the 80s, or in the 90s, early 90s, that I will never forget. When Abacha wanted, the two-time exchange rate, he said something profound. He warned Abacha as his economic advisor. He said, any currency that is not exchangeable in the international market is not biddable, is fixable. Don't bid the Naira, you will destroy the Naira. And they didn't listen. They bidded the Naira. From then till now, that's how Naira has been destroyed. And IMF has been the proponent of this floating of the Naira. And that is, they have succeeded with this administration, and then they are still going further with the tax regime. Even when there are lacunas in the tax law that was signed, and people are calling for restraint, please take this thing back to the National Assembly. Let them do the needful. He still said he was going to implement. And a lot of people, I've listened to a lot of experts, tax experts, because I'm not one, and they said that if these tax laws are implemented the way it is today, it is targeted at opposition. They are going to use it to ensure that some of them had issues in the coming election. And we see that play out in 1979, when they said Zik did not pay his tax as at when due. They said he paid his tax when due, not as at when due. You see, because some of these grammatical flaws is what they want to use to target some people in this period. And I said it's not going to pan well for this country if they continue with this. So my advice to government is that listen to voice of reason, send that bill back to the National Assembly. The people are in court already. And the court said they cannot grant the ex parte motion. So they have adjourned the 9th of January. But the government should listen to voice of reason, send the bill back to the National Assembly, and let them do the needful. All those areas that the government, I don't want to use the word fraudulently. The government now went to add things that were not there originally. They should look at it again and expunge some of them that needs to be expunged, so that we can have a seamless policy to implement. No, tax is a social contract, and right. It should be such that you are not meant to milk the people dry. Yeah, there are some good things in the tax regime, but let them do the right things and let the right things seem to be done before we can move ahead. Otherwise, the masses will continue to suffer.
Professor, I mean, you're not one of the masses, unfortunately for me. You are the upper middle class. You are the upper echelon of citizens,
we don't have any middle class again. You are either top there or you are down here.
And you are at the top, and you are my other at the top. In the famous words. But I do have to ask.
I don't belong to any political party. It's the politicians now that have all the money. I can see from
you're a chief, in your own rights. Even your attire says otherwise.
I am not. I just pin on the attire.
But I do have to ask.
I don't even intend to be one. Because that would be a demotion.
It takes a lot to wear that outfit, sir. So whatever you say, your actions say otherwise, and I'm going by your actions. But I do have to ask you, as we round up this hour, because we're pressed for time, going into 2026, all of that's been said, because I mean, the presidents and this administration, they are very good at owning the narrative and being able to push out what they want to push out, right? And we've seen this over in 2025. And from the president's New Year's message, he's recorded, according to him and according to his administration, they've recorded a number of gains. But like you said, many of Nigerians are yet to feel it. So what would it look like in terms of if that economic promises have been fulfilled or achieved and there's prosperity? What do you think will be the first indicators of that for the average Nigerian?
The first indicator for the average Nigerian is that things are going to come a little bit affordable for the common man in the market. We need to have that narrative that things will be affordable to the common man. By the time you now discover that most of these things are trickling down the lane, there are no white-collar jobs any longer. But by the people that are in the blue-collar jobs, the environment is not suitable for them because of the insecurity in the country. That's another thing that is causing a problem. The insecurity and inflation rate, they are too high for people that want to delve into the blue-collar job to make gains. So government should look at interest rates. Right. And then those policies, please, let them walk the talk. Because if they walk the talk and things pan out the way they have proposed it, it will be a win-win for all. And government will be happier for it.
All right. Professor, I must say thank you for taking out time to join us for the last 15 minutes, just giving us in-depth analysis following our President's New Year message. Once again, thank you. Professor Semion Nnah is a current affairs analyst, just giving us insight into what we should look out for as a regards economic stability for 2026. Once again, thank you, sir.
We'll have a prosperous New Year.
And yourself as well, sir. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we'll continue with the New Year messages. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. We continue with more news here as the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has criticized President Bola Tinubu's administration over the economy, insecurity, and governance, accusing it of incompetence, lawlessness, and political intimidation. Atiku said 2025 was one of the most punishing years in Nigeria's recent history, blaming what he described as economic mismanagement and governance without empathy under the All Progressives Congress-led federal government. He accused the ruling party of deliberately weakening Nigeria's democratic institutions, alleging efforts to turn the country into a de facto one-party state through intimidation and state capture. He warned that a government capable of tampering with laws could not be trusted to conduct free and fair elections in 2027. Meanwhile, Nigeria on Thursday, January 1st, 2026, has commenced the implementation of its much-anticipated new tax laws and fiscal reforms amid widespread public anxiety. President Bola Tinubu had on Tuesday reaffirmed that the new tax regime signed into law in June 2025 would take effect on January 1st, despite repeated calls from various quarters for a suspension to allow for further review. Defending the reforms, President Tinubu assured Nigerians that the new tax laws would not impose additional burdens on citizens. His position was echoed by Taiwo Oyedele, who's the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, who maintained that the implementation was necessary to reposition the country's revenue framework. Two gentlemen, Samuel Oyekanmi, and also research and insight lead at Noroberger, as well as the financial group, and Olusesan Okunade, who is a chartered account and tax consultant, joined us earlier on the news to discuss the likely impacts of the new tax law. Take a look.
It's pretty much information out there while the government has embarked on this journey to pretty much harmonize our tax structure in the country in a bid to also improve tax collection, because one of the issues that we've had over time has been the fact that we have a number of businesses and individuals, especially high-earning people, who evade taxes and have not been quite compliant when it comes to taxation. And then you also have issues of multiple taxation, either from states, local government, and even from the federal level on businesses and individuals. So again, what this reform has tried to do is to harmonize the tax system and in a way come up with some form of progressive timetable or calendar that helps to reduce the burden, tax burden on low-earning individuals and corporates, while also taxing, pretty much imposing higher taxes on higher earners. What these would do is going to help beyond improving tax collection, is also going to help simplify tax collection. So if you look at the medium-term expenditure framework that was released for 2026 into 2028 and 2028, you see that oil revenue has not been doing well, again, as has been the case over time. And what that tells you that in the medium to long term, it would be non-sustainable to rely on revenues coming from the international oil market, either as a result of the volatility in international crude oil prices or the inability of Nigeria to be able to meet production quota. So there's need to source those revenues from other side. And one of those things is to be able to tighten collection around the non-oil tax side of things. And this is geared towards that. I don't expect that in 2026, miraculously, our non-oil revenue or tax revenue is going to surge and start again helping our fiscal numbers. But I believe in the medium to long term, we'll start see that also help improve the fiscal numbers.
The narrative outside there is those that have access to the social media handle, who are very minimal in number, are pushing out narrative that is misleading to the people that this tax is actually set out to relieve. Let me tell you basically that most of the low-income earner, some will be on tax holiday, the tax exempted. Some will pay minimal tax compared to what they're actually paying before. Critically, the first set of people, anybody earning minimum wage as we speak, is exempted from tax, paying any personal income tax, 800,000 and above. And you also have a consolidated relief of rent relief of up to 500,000. So if you earn as much as 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 million, definitely your tax rate will be zero.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Labour Congress has called on the federal government to urgently review workers' wages in 2026, citing rising inflation and growing economic hardship. In a New Year address, NLC President Joe Ajaero said salaries must reflect a living wage rather than income meant only for survival. Ajaero described 2025 as a difficult year for workers, but expressed hope for improved engagement with the government in the new year. He also urged workers to remain united and vigilant, stressing that the NLC would mobilize to hold leaders accountable and push for policies that ease the burden on ordinary Nigerians. It's a new year, so there are plenty of New Year messages. Let's start off with River State. The governor of the state, Semion Nnah, has urged his supporters to remain calm and ignore what he described as sounds of war as the state ushered in the new year. The governor made the call during a crossover service held at the Government House Chapel in Port Harcourt, the capital of the state. Fubara acknowledged that the state was unable to achieve all its planned objectives in the outgoing year due to political challenges. However, he said River State still had many reasons to be grateful, stressing that progress was recorded despite the crisis. The governor encouraged the people of River State to remain steadfast and hopeful in 2026, assuring them that peace, stability, and renewed development efforts would define the year ahead.
Don't be troubled by the sound of war that you're hearing. We have stepped into 2026 with a very strong assurance. Who puts their trust in the Lord will never be put to shame. We should not be carried away or be scared by the stories of war. Then listen gently and quietly to that whisper that God is going to give to us. The war made it possible for us to still stand here to say 2026, here we come. We will continue to bring our support, not by noise, not by threats. They are assuring the people of our states that in a peaceful and an understanding manner that Tinubu will have his way in the state.
Away from Rivers State to Edo State, where the state governor, Monday Okpebholo, says the state is entering 2026 with renewed hope, stronger security, and inclusive development. In his New Year message, the governor reflected on his first year in office, acknowledging inherited challenges such as insecurity, poor infrastructure, and low public confidence. He noted that steadfast progress has been recorded under his SHINE agenda across security, infrastructure, healthcare, education, agriculture, and job creation. While challenges remain, including road conditions and court-related activities, the governor says his administration is confronting them decisively. He also announced enhanced security strategies for 2026, including technology-driven measures and a dedicated security hotline that's pledging that no community will be left behind. You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, there's still crossover, plenty more New Year messages after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Let's off to Asaba, the Delta State capital, as the state ushered in the new year 2026 with prayers, praise, and vibrant celebrations as Christian faithfuls gathered at worship centers across the city for crossover services. News Central's Austin Azu reports.
As early as 9 p.m. on December 31st, Christian faithful began converging on worship centers across Asaba, the Delta State capital, to await the arrival of the new year. The atmosphere was electrified with high-spirited worship, soul-lifting hymns, and energetic praise sessions, as worshippers expressed gratitude to God for his faithfulness throughout the past year. The services featured testimonies, prophetic declarations, and fervent prayers for divine protection, peace, economic stability, and progress in 2026. Clergy urged congregants to remain hopeful despite the country's economic challenges.
That in 2026 we will be effortlessly powerful. I say we will be effortlessly influential. What money cannot give you, power will easily grant you.
As the clock struck midnight, church auditoriums erupted with loud cheers and shouts of Happy New Year. Moments later, the night sky came alive with colorful fireworks, particularly around the Interbar roundabout, Okpanam Road, and the Stephen Keshi Stadium Oasis, as families and youth celebrated the dawn of 2026. While some residents expressed optimism for a better year, others shared their resolutions for the months ahead.
I'm very happy to see this year. Very happy. God will protect us in this Nigeria. Everything, He will guide us. He will see us through.
It's a new year. It's time for you to reflect and do a scorecard. Check what you couldn't achieve. Put strategies in place in order for you to make progress. However, it does not work automatically.
My New Year resolution to be a better person and have multiple sources of income. That's the best way to survive in Nigeria.
A few residents also spoke about their preparedness and expectations regarding the newly introduced tax law.
Taxation is a global phenomenon, but our government have not been accountable enough. We have monies that have been recovered from looters, monies that have been repatriated even into Nigeria, and we keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. So what will happen to this new one that they want to compulsorily take from people?
So I think the government should look into all these important things. I think they are more important than even the tax, but the tax, I don't have a problem with that.
This is how some residents of Asaba welcomed the year 2026 with these fireworks all over the state capital. However, in the year 2026, they are expecting to see a different result about the economy, the security, and political architecture of Nigeria. In Delta, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Away from New Year events, it's exactly 1 week since a devastating fire that gutted the Great Nigeria Insurance House on Martin Street in Balogun Market, Lagos Island. And despite the passage of time, emergency services are still battling the aftermath as rescue operations continue amid growing anger from affected traders. News Central's correspondent Israel Iferobo reports.
In that building there, they have nothing less than 40 persons there.
1 week after the inferno that reduced the Great Nigeria Insurance House to rubble, the scene still bears the scars of destruction. Emergency responders remain on the ground, containing pockets of fire and combing through debris in search of possible survivors. For traders who lost goods and loved ones in the blaze, hope is fading, but not completely gone.
On that fateful day that thing happened, I was among the people that were trapped there with my daughter. So, but I was able, God help me, I was able to come out. But my daughter is still there. So, till today, nothing has been done.
The government is not helping us. They are not helping us because since that 25, people are calling. Many of them that are trapped under this place are calling their loved ones. I'm calling they are still alive, but they need help.
I'm here in respect of my brother-in-law. His name is Olusesan former law. So since we came here on Monday, we haven't seen anything moving as supposed to be. Government is not helping the matter.
I'm here because of my elder brother, who was among the people who are still trapped inside the collapsed building. The government have not been doing anything. I didn't mean that this rescue, when they started, they were fast about it. I can say yes, that my brother will still be alive.
The traders accuse the authorities of a slow response, saying the delay worsened the damage and reduced the chances of rescue. Some allege that in desperation, they had to pull money together to hire private water trucks to battle the flames.
Individuals have volunteered to bring excavator. They said no, and at a point the work have to stop, and the market people, all of us, the victim families, started to contribute money to buy water to make sure that they quench the fire.
As rescue efforts drag on, families of the missing wait anxiously for answers, while traders count their losses and demand accountability.
Please, we are begging. People are trapped in there. I have two brothers, trapped in there. Please help us. I'm begging. Please. Hey.
With emergency operations still ongoing, the big question remains whether more victims will be found and if lessons will be learned to prevent another tragedy in one of Lagos' busiest commercial hubs. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Iferobo.
Gunmen on Wednesday night attacked and set ablaze the divisional police headquarters in Ipele community, Owo local government area of Ondo State. The assailants, numbering between 20 and 30, reportedly stormed the station around 9:40 p.m., firing assault rifles and using dynamite, which led to the destruction of the building and several exhibits. The Ondo State Police Command confirmed the attack, stating that no lives were lost and dismissing reports of a church attack. The attackers fled before security forces arrived. Commissioner of Police Adebowale Lawal has deployed additional tactical units and special forces to restore order as a coordinated manhunt for the attackers is underway. In line with tradition, every new year, the Lagos State government always welcomes the first babies of 2026 that is born at selected public hospitals across the state. And today is no different. The symbolic visit took place at facilities, including the Ibejuleki General Hospital, Imota General Hospital, and Bagada General Hospital. Beyond marking an annual tradition, the gesture underscores the government's commitment to maternal and child health care, while bringing smiles to families that welcome their newborns in the new year. And just this past year, 2025, was a year that the world will remember. A year of loss and renewal, diplomacy and division, from the death of Pope Francis to shifting alliances across Europe, Africa, and Asia. The world faced changes on every front. As wars dragged on and new crises emerged, 2025 also brought moments of hope, resilience, and rebirth. News Central senior international correspondent Afia Hagen looks back at the year that shaped our world. Take a look.
In Rome, the world said farewell to Pope Francis, a spiritual leader who transcended faith. His death at the age of 88 marked the end of a papacy defined by humility, reform, and a relentless call for compassion. Crowds filled St. Peter's Square in scenes reminiscent of history, united in prayer, reflection, and gratitude. Pope Leo XIV was elected as the first pope from the United States after a two-day conclave that ended with billowing white smoke. But beyond the Vatican's walls, peace remained elusive. In Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky pleaded with allies for more support as Russia's invasion entered its fourth year. Moscow's renewed airstrikes left cities in darkness once more, and hopes of a ceasefire as distant as ever. In Gaza, a fragile truce between Israel and Hamas raised cautious optimism, with hostage exchanges taking place on both sides. The ceasefire brokered by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and the United States offered a glimpse of peace, but not yet an end to the suffering. Israeli forces still remain within Gaza, with deaths occurring daily from outbreaks of violence.
Israel is very careful not even to use the word occupation, but overtaking. But those are all, playing with words. Overtaking for a long time becomes an occupation. And nothing is more permanent than a temporary measure. You enter into a place and then you don't leave. And then you always find other reasons, security reasons and others, why to stay.
Elsewhere, the fight against nature's fury turned deadly. Across Mexico, record floods claimed dozens of lives, whilst in Europe and North America, blistering heat waves and wildfires forced thousands from their homes. The year became one of the hottest ever recorded, a warning that climate change can no longer be ignored. Cyclone Ditwa ravaged Sri Lanka, bringing record rains that triggered landslides and floods across the island country, as well as Indonesia and Thailand. In Asia, China continued to flex its diplomatic and military muscle, deepening ties with Russia and asserting itself in the South China Sea. At the same time, India looked further abroad, signing a free trade deal with the United Kingdom to reduce tariffs on goods like whiskey, cosmetics and medical devices, and to increase market access for businesses. The deal is expected to boost bilateral trade by £25.5 billion and increase UK GDP by £4.8 billion annually in the long run.
One of the things that's important is that the UK is looking abroad. It's looking to strengthen its trade relationship with other partners. Crucially, though, it doesn't seem to be working so hard on strengthening its trade relationship with the big market across the sea, across the English Channel, the EU, which is the biggest market in the world. The government doesn't seem ready to take the steps to strengthen those sorts of trade relationships. That could be a game changer.
Europe, meanwhile, was shaken by violence closer to home. Mass demonstrations were met with violent police crackdowns as tens of thousands of Georgians turned out. angered by the Prime Minister's decision to call a 4-year halt on moves towards joining the EU. And in the UK, leaders scrambled to confront the rise of right-wing protests and the relentless pressure of migration. Amid the uncertainty, the world watched as America's political drama once again played out on the global stage. President Donald Trump returned to the world spotlight, meeting Vladimir Putin in Alaska, and later travelling to the UK on a state visit that made global headlines. In Buckingham Palace, the spectacle of diplomacy met the sharp reality of global division.
This has been perhaps the most chaotic year that I think we've seen since the pandemic, or even going all the way back to the 2008 crash. This has been an administration that has literally bulldozed its way through legal, social, and political norms. We are seeing now a president that is single-handedly strangling U.S. democracy, a president that has placed the checks and balances typically held among all three branches of government. He has completely demolished them.
And yet 2025 wasn't only about crisis and confrontation. It was also about innovation, the rise of AI regulation, the fight for ethical technology, and the determination of young voices demanding a say in the future. From COP30 in Brazil to youth-led climate summits in Africa and Asia, a new generation made it clear the world cannot afford another lost decade. From the Vatican to the Volta, from Nairobi to New Delhi, 2025 was a year that tested the limits of leadership and the strength of ordinary people. As the world enters 2026, the challenges remain daunting, but so too does the potential for change, because in a world in transition, every ending is also a beginning. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
And welcome back. Several people have been killed and several others were injured when an explosion ripped through a bar during a New Year party at Alpine ski resort town of Crans, Montana in southern Switzerland. Gaiten Lothen, who is the spokesperson for police, said the fire broke out around 1:30 a.m. at Le Constellation Lounge Bar in Crans, Montana, and the cause remain unknown. A huge fire ripped through Amsterdam's 19th century Vondelkerk Tower early Thursday, having the 50-meter tower crashing down and roof wrecked, but the main building stands. Netherlands' New Year's Eve turned wild with non-stop attacks on police using fireworks and petrol bombs. Now on to sports, as Mozambique are stepping up preparations for landmark round of 16 clash against Nigeria following the conclusion of Group F at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The Mambas will face the Super Eagles on Monday, marking their first ever progression beyond the group stage. Qualification represents a major milestone for Mozambique, whose previous AFCON campaigns ended early. But veteran winger, that's Elias Pelebe, has drawn praise for his leadership as the team sharpens focus for the knockout test. Now, while Nigeria chases continental glory, Mozambique aim to extend a fairy tale run built on discipline, belief, and growing confidence as the tournament enters its decisive phase. Our correspondent Udoka Njoku is live on standby now to bring us updates. First of all, Happy New Year to you, Udoka. What a time for you to celebrate Christmas and the New Year in Morocco. Do we miss you? No. But anyway, let's keep it moving, shall we? Mozambique has reached the knockout stage of AFCON for the first time, and Nigeria has been, going up. They've been on this team. Do you think they were ready? Give us an update. What is it looking like for us as we prepare for this historic round of 16?
Well, today is, thank you very much, Judith, and Happy New Year to you as well, and the whole of News Central.
today is the match-free day for all the players and all the nations participating in the Africa Cup of Nations. And no training is going on currently, but up until tomorrow, that's where we'll get to see the teams who are meant to play in Fez will arrive for training and also to seek accommodation wherever they will be, at least close to the stadium, to prepare for those games ahead, mostly on the 5th of January, where Nigeria will be taking on Mozambique. They've not arrived yet. We're expecting them to arrive Fez tomorrow, Friday, the 2nd of January, then proceed for training on Saturday, and then Sunday, the press conference before the game on Monday.
And how do you see the team, forming up for Monday, starting with the Super Eagles and then Mozambique?
Yeah, of course, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, they had a training yesterday and also media party where the players spoke about ahead of the game, saying that they would leave no stones unturned. They would never underrate Mozambique because Mozambique qualified as the third best loser because they won Gabon. Surprisingly, defeated Gabon 1-0 and qualified for the round of 16. So the Super Eagles of Nigeria know that this can be a banana peel, but they will not take it lightly against Mozambique. And for Mozambique, talking about the likes of Pelembe, who is 42, he has led that team so far in this tournament. His captaincy, his leadership quality has helped Mozambique stay where they are, stay strong, and good enough in this tournament. But for fans here, they're saying that the end of the road for Mozambique will be against Nigeria in the round of 16. But both teams, I'm sure, they are well prepared. But Mozambique lost to Cameroon in the last group game, 2-1. And even as much as they lost that game, they're still proud of the performance they put up against Cameroon.
All right. Well, all eyes are on Monday for Nigeria, and hopefully it's not Mozambique that takes us out. Well, Udoka, many thanks. Appreciate you for coming on. Udoka Njoku there, enjoying the cool breeze there in Morocco. Just giving us update from AFCON. Pretty much all we can take at this hour. Now, before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The President of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, has pledged inclusive growth, improved security for the year of 2026. The new tax law reforms have now taken full effect January 1st today, despite calls for suspension. And we also told you that fires have killed dozens at Swiss Resort, gutted the 19th century church in the Netherlands as well. And do remember, if you see anything out there on the roads, please send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing up on the screen. You can always tag us on social media as well. We're at News Central TV on every social media platform. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274. We're also on Apple TV as well. And you can take us everywhere in 2026 on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Have yourself a wonderful January 1st. Bye for now.